Once again, a very warm welcome to you to the Fulham Goals of the Season video for 1989-1990. And if you bought our special video from last season, you'll know that once again we're delighted to have manager Ray Lewington alongside us. And we're going to talk through all the goals, home and some special ones from away games as well, coming up after our introduction. And Ray, when you and I sat here 12 months ago reflecting on that near miss in the playoffs, I suppose in a way Fulham's season was more or less predetermined by a fact you knew then but didn't let on to us, and that was the fact that skipper Doug Roomvey had already decided to go back to Scotland, and that left you with problems right from the start last summer.
Yes, it was disappointing because we had a nucleus of a good side, and obviously the signing of Doug Roomvey halfway through last season turned that season, and he was a major factor in us doing well. And at the time we was doing the tape last year, Doug had told us that he was going to move back to Scotland. There was no arguments. It was either he'd either go back to Scotland or he would give up the game. His wife's health, he said, was his first consideration. If he couldn't go back to Scotland, then he would just give up the game anyway, which is the reason we had to sell him. At the time we couldn't announce it because we were desperately trying to change his mind. We still had hopes of bringing him back, but as you say, it was a major blow because he did change the season for us, and he was such an influence on the side. And it was very disturbing when he did go, and obviously trying to find a replacement was very hard.
Worse was to follow with a string of really horrendous pre-season injuries in training.
Yes, it was the most important part of the season is pre-season as far as I'm concerned. The major fitness of the team and the squad happens in that 6 weeks, getting them all fit, and they work very, very hard. Once the games start, you have to tail off the training, and you have to lighten it down a little bit. And so if you have missed that all-important 6-7 weeks pre-season training, to try and catch up amongst playing and training, doing the technique work, is very, very hard. And unfortunately, we lost a good half a dozen players even in the first 2 weeks of pre-season. So that plus losing, our skipper, was very, very hard.
Michael Cole's long-term injury, Justin Skinner dislocated shoulder, Sean Gorn out of the game for a year, and Ivor Davis with 2 Achilles injuries coming right after the first game of the season, which is in fact where we'll start. Let's take you back to a baking hot day last August and the visit to the cottage of promoted Tranmere Rovers. John King's highly entertaining Tranmere Rovers side then, and we join play at the start of the second half with Fulham already a goal down at the interval. Ray, this was the home debut for, perhaps it's fair to say, a panic buy from Scotland, John Watson.
Yes, that's right. We'd lost Michael Cole and Gordon Davis during the summer, during pre-season. We had to act very quickly. We had Andy Sayer really that was a fit, and we had to make a signing very quickly. As I say, unfortunately, John didn't turn out as we expected. He found it very hard to get to the pace of the game, and he quickly went back to Scotland. But you see Jeff Eckhart scoring their first goal of the season.
Yes, but it wasn't to be. It was a 2-1 home defeat, and we move forward now to a far happier occasion, Littlewoods Cup action, and this the second leg away to the Manor Ground, and Fulham a goal down from the first leg.
Yes, we had it all to do against a second division side, but I thought we played very well. We showed a lot of guts this particular evening, played some lovely football, nice build-ups, and we soon see the first goal here from Scotty, who keeps his composure in front of the goal, half follows it in, and looks very pleased about it.
Oxford, who must have fancied their chances, having beaten us 1-0 at the cottage, and a very much rearranged side. One thing we'll see throughout these games in the season, Fulham using close to 30 players throughout the season, Ray.
Yes, without doubt a major cause why we didn't do well. I mean, it's very easy to make excuses, but if you are using 30 players, then you don't get no consistency. But in this particular game, here you see Andy try to go round the keeper, the ball bounces out, and Gary Barnett tries to put it in the open net, and the lad has to handle off the line.
Well, this was a game that was to provide 8 goals, and it could easily have been 16. It must have given you a nightmare on the bench, Ray.
Well, it was incredible. We were just sitting there, just wondering what would happen next. Every time a side went forward, they either created a chance or scored. Really exciting game, and we played very well. I was very pleased with ourselves afterwards, I must admit.
Gavin Nebbeling, who'd arrived in the summer from Crystal Palace for £80,000, he started off the season also with a blood virus problem, and he wasn't fully fit for the first month or so.
That's right, he missed all pre-season again, another player. And then, as I said, as I've said before, pre-season is one of the most important times, and this was his first game. He was never fully fit, he didn't feel comfortable, and he struggled all the way through the season, to be honest.
Well, Justin Skinner not missing from the penalty spot, he really does. And here's one that Clive can walk into the net as well. The start of the second half now. It's 3-2 to Fulham, 3 all on aggregate, but with away goals counting double, suddenly we're ahead.
Yes, that's right. As you say, it was an amazing game, and this is a real cracking goal here, just coming up. Skins lashing onto it, and an unstoppable shot.
Not the best defending in the world.
Not the best defending, I've got to say that, but if the chances present themselves, that's the way to put it away.
Well, that goal coming just about 5 minutes from time, and really no chance for Oxford to get back into things, because Fulham wrapped it up in the dying seconds. We'll see a lovely layoff here from old man Des Bremner.
Yes, Des come in, showed plenty of experience there, didn't lose his composure. Again in the box, crowded area, just nice little one-touch layoff, and Scotty did very well there, just to tuck it in the corner. Very exciting game, very exciting evening, and a very good performance.
Final score 5-3 to Fulham, 5-4 on aggregate, and into the second round. Back to league action now. The next visitors to the Cottage, Mansfield Town.
Always a difficult game against Mansfield, and it's usually that type of goal that usually wins games against them. They always come, and they're very strong at the back, never give a lot away, and we're rather fortunate there, but as we keep saying to the players, if you don't shoot, you don't score, and that's always likely to happen.
There's Bremner, who'd come on as a sub, that goal coming 8 minutes from time, and it was Justin Skinner once again deflecting the ball fortuitously past Brian Cox. Here we are now, away from home, our first league victory of the season, up at Crewe, Fulham's first ever visit to Gresty Road, and that's Clive Walker giving Fulham the lead in a 3-2 win.
Yes, I think Crewe were the surprise package of the third division this year. They did exceptionally well. They play some excellent football. They are one of the sides that adopted the sweeper system very early on, and here's possibly the strangest goal you'd ever see.
Well, was it or wasn't it Jim Stannard's goal?
Well, judge for yourself there. I think that Jim has got a justifiable claim for a goal there.
Dying seconds of the game, and Fulham winning by 3-2 up at Crewe, our first league away win of the season. So, next up it's Swansea, and it's maximum points coming up once again here with a home win, 2-0, but we had to wait for the goals to come in the second half, making hard work of a fairly average Swansea side.
Yes, but again, always a tough opposition. You see Clive Walker just previously running through one of his characteristic runs, but it was a very tough game. Very bad marking there at the back post by the lad. You can see the goalkeeper's not too happy there.
Glenn Thomas.
And Glenn Thomas pops up for one of his rare goals.
Yes, that's Fulham at the start of the second half in the 54th minute there, taking the lead. And this is a feature of Fulham's play in the season, the added distance on Jim Stannard's drop kicks.
Yes, I mean that was an amazing goal from Jim's kick. Andy Sayers having to watch it all the way there. And,
one touch.
Yeah, it really was spectacular stuff, that. But Jim seems to have acquired an extra 15 or 20 yards on his kicks, and although it doesn't look pretty half the time, it is a tactic that it can be used occasionally. I think we overdid it once we got some success from it, where we try to do it every time. We try to slow it down, but it's a usable tactic.
Well, the bonus for beating Oxford in the first round was a second round trip to Sunderland over 2 legs, and Sunderland flying high at the top of the second when Fulham went up there and coming away with a very creditable 1-1 draw.
Yes, and we played very well. It wasn't just a performance where we were lucky to get a draw. I think we deserved to win. Clive intercepts a bad square pass there, pushes the ball across, and there's Johnny Watson scoring his first goal. Probably being possible to miss there, but it was nice for John. Although he didn't make it at Fulham, he was a smashing lad off the pitch, totally committed. As I say, he found the pace too much for him, but we thought we'd set ourselves up nicely there for the return leg.
Well, that wasn't to be, but a good spell here, Ray, coinciding with Ian Dowie's loan spell from Luton. And the next game here against Rotherham was another one that we let a couple of points slip away from, really.
Yes, that's right. Although, having said that, Rotherham are a good side. I thought that they quite impressed me, and without doubt they'll be a force next year. But that's a good goal there. I mean, that's excellently taken by Johnny Marshall, using his head again, which he often does. Johnny creeps up in them positions, and it was such a shame having to use him in so many back positions at the end of the season.
Coming up, a very entertaining game against another team in red. This time it's Bury, and once again really slopping defending, costing us another 2 points. But two of the finest goals seen at the Cottage all season.
Yeah, that was a beautiful ball. Clive has timed his run really well there, and he does that ever so well, Clive. He never panics in front of goal. As you see in the Oxford game when he went past the keeper there, and he's just done the same thing there, dropped his shoulder. But excellent ball from Justin Skinner there.
So Clive Walker, who was to finish the season as Fulham's leading scorer, and we were just about 4 minutes away from maximum points in this one. Bury, one of the fancied sides who were up amongst the front runners for most of the season, but there's not much you can do about a chip like that.
Well, again, he does it, doesn't he? Johnny Marshall really does come out with the most spectacular goals. We was commenting this last year, watching the goals of the season. And when you do watch some of John's goals, they are absolutely brilliant. That was a superb chip. It had to be inch perfect, and as I say, you know, we drew with Bury 2-2, but Bury will again prove themselves a good side this year, I'm sure.
Yes, well, it was a run of rather frustrating home draws which came along as we moved into autumn and the onset of winter. Coming up, the visit of Northampton Town, never an attractive side to the Cottage, and from this resulting corner stepped forward Ronnie Mauger. Now, unfortunately, he won't be wearing the club colours next season because he's moved to Bury.
Yes.
But a word about his progress through the season, Ray.
Well, we had to use him in the midfield position, which was his original one. That's one of his assets. He's a superb header of the ball, a lad of his size. He didn't jump there, but he can get so high, as we'll see later on in the tape. But he's a strong, aggressive midfield player. He made the position his own in the end. He was very popular with the crowd, I know. We're very sorry to lose him. Unfortunately, he came to the end of his contract and has decided to go elsewhere.
Right, Fulham fans, here's a bonus for you, another away trip, and this one across London to Orient, a London derby on a Sunday in November, and this one with Andy Sayer giving us the lead, and in fact it might have been more.
Yes, it was a little bit disappointing here because it wasn't a very good game, I've got to say, but Andy's given us the lead there. And then we had a little spell where he was under the cosh first half, but second half we created a lot of chances. And again we see another draw where we could have won. And when you do add up all these draws that we had, you understand what I mean by a fine line.
As Orient scramble one off the line there following Clive Walker's corner from the far side. And there, once again, the ball flashing just wide of the far post.
As I say, it's such a fine line between success and failure, and just some of these draws being turned into wins. And it's amazing how many places you jump up the league.
Well, let's spare all Fulham fans the sight of a certain Chris Pike scoring twice against us here with the visit of Cardiff City. We might have taken a 4th-minute lead as Ronnie Mauger's header comes back off the bar, but this, Ray, despite the first chance to talk about Steve Milton, was a real horror show.
Absolutely abysmal defending all throughout, and again really summed up our season. Bad defending and being loose in front of goal. But that was he tucked that away nicely. His first goal, Steve. He's very raw, Steve, but he's one that we're pinning a lot of our hopes on. He's a natural goal scorer. Whether he can bridge the gap and do it consistently over a season remains to be seen. But he's a good lad and he'll keep going. And as I say, we've got high hopes for him.
Well, as you mentioned there, really terrible defending as we conceded goals in both the 14th and 15th minutes. And we were 3-1 down into the second half. Ronnie there as the ball runs off his left toe cap with a chance to pull us back into the game. We did get a goal back midway through the second period, and I think we can see it coming up here. And in fact that's another tremendous save from the keeper. Gary Elkins, the unlucky man.
In a lot of our games where we've lost, although very disappointing, and I understand the crowd being upset, but it's amazing when you look back how many times we've had chances to score, and then we go and throw the game away by just absolutely terrible defending, bad back passes which you can't legislate for, or people not calling. Now if we can just tighten that up and get the players a little bit more disciplined in their outlook, and perhaps take a few less chances than they had done this season, then hopefully the points will start coming back.
Well, Justin Skinner, who rarely misses from the spot, as we all know, had missed one at Walsall earlier in the season, which turned a 0-0 draw, what could have possibly been another win. But although he pulls us back to 3-2 there, it ended, I'm afraid, a black day for Fulham, 5-2. So, FA Cup time, and with a real form and injury crisis, Bath in the first round, away from home, proving no pushover.
Well, it's a manager's nightmare when you're having a bad time in the league to be drawn away to a side currently top of the Southern League, as Bath were. 2-0 down, Gary Peters there getting one back.
Cultured left foot.
Cultured left foot, could have gone anywhere. Never used it before. Well, everyone was so grateful that he did.
And with time running out, Fulham coming back from 2 down. Now it's Clive Walker on the far side, and in goes a right foot rocket.
Yes, to the great relief of everyone. We'd actually played very well first half without scoring, and then all of a sudden find ourselves 2-0 down, as we had done so often this year, and really having to scratch in to get back in the game to force a replay.
This is the replay at the Cottage, and Fulham going ahead thanks to this goal coming up from John Marshall.
Yes, Andy Sad did particularly well there. Something he's not good at, Andy. I know he's gone on to Orient now, but he could be such a lot better player than he is if he just had a little bit of aggression, a little bit more stronger running. But he's forced a mistake there, and we've got the rewards.
Well, a chance to highlight Jim Stannard, who had another excellent season in the Fulham goal. Look at the lightning reactions there to deny Bath from close range.
It was a very tough game, this, make no mistake. It could have gone either way at one time. Anyone who thought that we'd done the hard work early on by getting a draw away from home, this proved to the point that there's no easy game now, and we had to fight all the way to get a victory here.
And coming up, the second Fulham goal in the second half, and it's one I'm sure all Fulham fans have remembered, because it was the only goal they saw from John Watson.
Yes, it's the only home goal. Just when we needed it, mind. It was a very important goal, and it got us through a very difficult time. As I say, I mean, John proved to be a bad boy, but I think he had all the respect of all the lads. He kept going and always gave 100%.
Well, we'll wish John all the best north of the border, and let's move on to a rather more happier occasion. Something to lift the spirits pre-Christmas, the visit of Wigan at the end of November.
Probably one of our best performances at home, but it's just amazing so far how many times we've hit the woodwork. And later on in the season, I think we went 5 games on the trot where we hit the woodwork, and we've just done so there again. Some good saves, and we always looked capable of winning this one. It was just a matter of time. But it was a feature this year, how many times we did hit the woodwork. But thankfully, this was one of the days where we did manage to get the ball between the posts. And as I say, it was probably one of our best performances of the season at home. Again,
another one off the outside of the woodwork. Yeah. Justin Skinner, the unlucky man. No, Gary Elkins, I'm sorry. They're doing Gary an injustice. Just before half-time then, Fulham finally making the breakthrough and piercing the Wigan rearguard, getting one past Phil Hughes, that superb goalkeeper. Peter Scott, the man on the score sheet.
Yes, and he does that very well, Scotty, and he should do it more often, shooting from there. Again, we saw in the tape last year how effective he can be when he gets that. He makes himself a yard on the edge of the box, and he's got a great shot with either foot. And he should do that a lot more. He's quite capable of doing it.
Bizarre goal here.
Yeah, very strange goal. I mean, I remember the protests on the side of the pitch, but see Clive getting across here.
Well, we've seen this so often from Clive Walker.
Yeah.
He takes the ball tight to the byline, and he thinks a little gap there between keeper and post, I'll go for it.
Yep, I mean, the policy is there. If we're not playing anyone who's particularly good in the air, that we just try and hit it low and hard. That one has got up in the air a little bit more, but it's squeezed in. The goalkeeper will anticipate the ball across the line, and he's, as we've seen so often, he does that really well, and he puts a lot of power into his shots.
An element of good fortune about the second of 2 goals coming up now from Walker, but nothing wrong with the build-up.
No, nice build-up, and we proved that we can do it again from a narrow angle. At narrow angle, Clive does it again. But in patches we play some good football. Unfortunately, when you're having a bad time, confidence goes and people stop looking for the ball. But we are capable of doing it.
And just what Andy needed to boost his confidence here at the end. Terrible back pass from the full-back to keeper, and Andy profits.
He had a good game this game, Andy. I remember this game particularly well. I remember Brian Hamilton coming in and how well Andy did. And he can do it. He's capable of good quality performances, but he doesn't do it often enough.
So Fulham then, after a lean spell, back into winning form with a 4-0 demolition of Wigan. Unfortunately, Fulham not able to keep the good form going. It's back to cup action, however, and a real tough trip away to Bristol City, where in very controversial circumstances, right on the stroke of half-time, in a rare breakout, Fulham took the lead with this shot from Peter Scott.
Yeah, Scotty with his left peg this time. On the day I was playing, I was on the pitch. I thought the ball had gone across the line. It's inconclusive there by the pictures, but a terrific shot again from Scotty, highlighting the point we've just made, is that he's capable of doing it either foot. And again, a chance that, it's at the side of the post again. A great effort from Andy Sale.
That was at the start of the second half, and Fulham unable to hang on to that 1-goal lead and going out of the cup in the second round, 2-1, the final score. Bristol City back at the Cottage on Boxing Day, and I'm afraid taking the points off us once again, so hoping to go out of the season, the end of the year rather, on a high note, with the visit of Shrewsbury Town, and we nearly missed that rocket of Clive's there.
Well, I tell you what, that is one of the best shots you'll ever see, because he had virtually no backlift. He turned in such a tight space, and at the time I was on the line, I remember shouting for him to pass it, and he really has had no backlift. It's not as if he's running, and he's hit the most powerful shot you'll ever see. I mean, that was a fantastic goal.
Another one of our lone players there, Hughie Burns, down from Dunfermline. And how the keeper kept that one out, I shall never know.
Terrific save from Clive again. Just a word about Hughie Burns. I mean, he did exceptionally well for us. At the time, we were unable to make it permanent, although we would have liked to have done it at the time. But it was just a shame. He did very well for us, and he got better with each game.
Well, once again, Fulham had to come from behind, and with just 8 minutes remaining, that's a penalty for the trip on Leo Donnellan, and it gives Clive Walker the chance to step forward and claim his second of the match with a penalty. He did miss a few during the season when he stepped into Justin's penalty-taking boots, Ray, but no mistake with this one.
Well, he did miss a couple, but thankfully this one's one that did go in, and it was just a shame that the previous shot that was saved, it would have been a nice hat-trick for him.
So into 1990, and the winter's, I'm afraid, turning into a bit of a battle. The two full-backs are now both lone players, Alan Dowson coming as well from Millwall, and the central striking role still unresolved. Now the visit of another team pushing for promotion, Bolton Wanderers, and that's a certain Martin Pike on the score sheet, Ray, but for the wrong team.
Yes, that's right. I mean, we'd been looking at Pikey for a long time. We were very disappointed when he went on loan to Bolton, because we'd asked ourselves, and they'd said no. And he comes, and I actually said to the chairman that day that this was the fellow I was looking to buy if we ever did get the money. Just before we carry on, that's a well-taken goal by Steve Milton, showing plenty of composure. But I said to the chairman that day to look out for the left-back, and as if by fate, in the first minute he goes and lashes one in for 25 yards, which I must add, thankfully, he did for us as well, so he wasn't just saving it against us. But that was a nicely taken goal by Steve. Got good goal scorer's goal, that is. Showed a lot of composure again.
So Fulham, who were belying their mid-table position here against the Bolton side, who came to the Cottage in the middle of January in 4th position, but they found themselves going a goal down, and that's a cross from Dowson and a header from Justin Skinner.
Yes, and again another funny story to this game, because Justin was just about to come off. He'd looked over a couple of times his calves, which eventually needed an operation on both calves. He was having problems with him. We was just about to take him off, and took him off about 5 minutes later. The pain was getting unbearable. Great save there. But we played well this game. Another game where we've ended up drawing, which we could have won. and as I say, just turn some of these draws into wins, and we wouldn't have had such a scare at the end of the season.
Long-range effort from 30 yards. Huey Burns trying to get on the score sheet before heading back north. And this is where Fulham fans to this day thought they'd won the game. Was he fouled, or did he fall?
Well, I mean, I think that was a penalty, and the Bolton lads did after the game. They couldn't believe their luck that they got away with it. But when things aren't going very well for you, decisions go against you a little bit. You can't complain, because over the season they usually, they usually come round and you get 50-50. But on this particular day, we desperately needed a win.
And we needed a win here again when Crewe came for the return leg at the Cottage after our 3-2 win up at Gresty Road earlier in September. Looking to do the double here and the bonus of the first half penalty.
Yes, I must admit on the day I thought they were a little bit harsh, but having seen that again, I think there's no doubt that the lad did handball it. Unfortunately, Clive blasted it over the bar.
I've seen Chris Waddle do that as well.
Yes. Seen Maradona do similar.
So John Watson's last game in a Fulham shirt, but what a beautiful combination here, providing a superb goal for John Marshall.
Again, Marshall getting on the end and scoring a spectacular goal. He took that very well. It's got to be said that Crewe are a good side, and although I don't think they'll be in the top 6, I think they'll be just below that this year. They proved that they are a very good side.
Yes, and despite further pressure in the dying seconds, it remained Fulham 1, Crewe Alexandra 1.
Now, all this time we're still roughly mid-table, and we never gave up of getting into the playoffs. After all, we'd been in a similar position the year before, but this probably, well, I'd say probably, is undoubtedly our best performance. That was a great ball there by Scotty. Perfect cross, and Stephen Milton, excellent header. And he shows he can do it sometimes in little patches, and if we can just get him doing that more consistently, then we might have unearthed a really good play.
Yes, without doubt, as you say there, the highlight of the season. This was, of course, at the time of the CPO and the Cabra deal, hence those well-behaved fans on the pitch at half-time. But after 2 bad away defeats and a home debut here for Martin Pike, Gary Barnett also turning in his best ever game in a Fulham shirt. And that man we have to mention, all-time record scorer Ivor Davis, is back in the team at last, partnering Steve Milton up front. And as we saw, Steve there getting on the score sheet in the first half. But let's not forget, when Notts County came to the Cottage for this fixture, they were actually leading the division. And you wouldn't have thought that there were something like 13 or 14 places between the two sides on the day.
Well, we always say before games that regardless of where teams are in the table, you might as well rip the tables up. They don't mean anything. There is virtually nothing between the top and bottom in the 3rd division. And from what I hear from other managers in the higher divisions, exactly the same there. Our division is very, very close, and we've proved we're as good as anyone in our day. Excellent jump there from Ronnie Mills, what I was saying earlier about our whirly climbs. Good corner, and he's gone in there and really headed it so powerfully it could have been a shot.
2-0 then to Fulham, and Notts County really rocked back on their heels.
Yes, and we kept going forward all day. It just seemed one of our days today when everything went right. Good thinking by Scotty. And he got a little bit of fortune there, but he deserved it. And his quick thinking has been rewarded. Another thing that I like to see, I know it's not very popular with the fans sometimes, but if we can get quick free kicks or corners, I know the corners particularly don't go down well with supporters, but if you can do it, it's a good tactic. That is an excellent shot. That's probably the hardest shot you've probably seen. That matches Clive Walker's against Shrewsbury.
That was Tommy Johnson, the highly rated youngster for Notts County, bringing them back into the game here at 3-2. But then suddenly Ivor Davis had his say.
Yes, Ivor had so much trouble this year with his Achilles, 2 operations. He's come back, made his comeback again, and that is the perfect way to start. Terrific goal.
Well, this was a superb sequence of action in the space of 6 minutes. 3 goals, 1 to Notts County, and that one from Tommy Johnson, as Ray said, perhaps the finest free kick strike you'll see all season. Immediately Fulham back at 4-2 with the 2-goal cushion, and just 90 seconds after that, It's Steve Davis combining to put Steve Milton through for the killer 5th goal.
Yes, and it's a nice goal. It's his goal scorer's goal because he didn't have much room, and he's really tucked that away nicely, that Steve. It was a good goal. I'm going to see him do that more often.
So, Fulham's performance of 1989-1990, Notts County beaten by 5 goals to 2 at the Cottage, and suddenly we're beginning to entertain faint hopes of perhaps still making the playoffs.
Well, as I say, there weren't many points between us, and although we were lying mid-table, 14th or 15th, there were still possibilities. We certainly hadn't given up.
Well, let's pick up the action with 2 more home wins, as we say hello to another debutant here, Mark Newsom, £125,000 signing, the defender coming from Bournemouth, and coming up the goals that saw off Preston North End and Chester. Let's start with the Preston game.
Well, as you say, Mark's first game. I think Mark will prove to be a very good player. His pike is dipping right foot volley there. Excellent goal.
His wrong foot.
His wrong foot. He scores one later on against Orient with his wrong foot. He's a good striker of the ball, is Martin Pike. Not necessarily with his right foot. His left peg is superb. He strikes it so cleanly. But he proves that he can do it with both feet.
Now Steve Milton wriggling round the defender and did away with the shot. Still got some rough edges to smooth off, Steve, but great potential.
I think so. He likes to attack people, and we don't want him to lose that. We don't want him to coach that out of him. We want to keep that ruggedness he's got about him, that he attacks the area with the ball and without the ball.
Well, what can you say about that man? He just keeps on going, 34 years of age, an instinctive flicked header which caught the keeper in no man's land, and Fulham 2 up.
It's been in the right place at the right time, and as we said on the tape last year, he's just got the knack of being there. He makes himself a yard, and he very, very rarely misses the target. Incredible.
Once again, I'm afraid, as we saw so often throughout the season, Fulham then going to sleep for 15 minutes, allowing Preston to get a goal back. But thankfully, it all came right at the end of the 90 minutes. Fulham's 3rd goal coming up here, as we'll see, from a penalty.
Yes, that's right. It's I think it's Steve Milton on the ball here. I know they felt a little bit aggrieved that he'd held at the start of that sequence, but I think there's no doubt that he got tripped.
Well, Steve Milton and the Fulham players had no doubt about the decision. And up steps Clive Walker once again. Now, a word about Justin at this time. He was in hospital undergoing surgery on his calves.
Yes, he had a problem all season. He really had a rough season, and I know he took a little bit of stick from some section of the crowd. But as I said before, he started the season, 3rd day of pre-season, dislocated his shoulder, which needed an operation. And then when he did come back, he was complaining of calf trouble for virtually all the season up to this point, and eventually we took him to a specialist. We took him to 3 specialists, and the 3rd one finally diagnosed that he had some calf blockage, and he had operation in both calves, and we hope, we're touching wood, that he will return this year fully fit.
So Justin's missing from the side, but Ivor Davis is back for the end of season run-in, and trying to build on the confidence of that win over Preston North End and gain further places on the top clubs. A midweek game as we move into spring with a very negative Chester City side.
Never a nice team to play against, but we'd great run here by Martin Pike. But we'd signed the two new boys, right back and left back, which I always felt was our weak positions, as well as knowing that we needed someone up front, but no one was available at the time. And this is the second win on the trot, and we felt that we really did have a chance. Great free kick there.
Took a slight deflection off Ronnie Mojay's knee.
Yeah, we have 3 boys in the wall who split, and usually it does leave a hole. If the wall behind is not totally right, then it does leave that hole, and all Clive does is aim for where the white shirts are, and they just get out of the way. And fortunately it worked there.
And that saw Fulham doing the double over Chester. But no arguments about our goal of the season. It's coming up here. Clive Walker's brilliant solo effort away to Huddersfield Town, worth the price of this video alone.
Yes, that's right. And my one memories of Clive saying to me on the coach home was that you shouting to pass it. And I've got to admit, it was me. It was me going going frantic on the side. He'd done it a couple of times before. He'd got the ball and lost it, and we had good situations where players were unmarked. And this time, Clive being Clive, goes and scores the best goal you probably ever see.
6 minutes from time, Fulham winning at Huddersfield by 1-0 as Clive Walker goes through half the Huddersfield defence. And now we were really buzzing in the opening minutes of our next league game against Bristol Rovers. We thought at last we'd got a goal against them, and Ivor's header comes back off the post.
Well, we had 3 wins on the trot, and you know, people were saying, well, we can do it again, and we all thought that we could. But the side that we have to meet in the next game has to be Bristol Rovers, who always do well against us. We actually played particularly well the first 20 minutes of this game, and we did create so many chances, but I think in the end the lads felt, as I did on the side a little bit, that, you know, we were never going to score against them. And I mean, the goal we end up getting against them was fluky, to say the least.
Well, full credit, of course, to Bristol Rovers and the tremendous job done by Jerry Francis. They just missed out last season when they beat us in the playoffs, but gaining recognition this season, going up to the second. A magnificent performance from Rovers. I think they only lost 4 league games of the 46, and the winners here at the Cottage by 2-1. Devon White, the man doing the damage. Fulham getting one consolation back near the end with a rather scrambled effort we'll see coming up here from Clive Walker.
Very fortunate to get the goal there, I've got to say.
I think it was heading towards the tunnel.
Yes, I think could have disappeared up the Cottage, that.
Well, from a mid-table position, Ray, and with the squad strengthened by 2 quality defenders, those faint hopes of making the playoffs and perhaps turning the season into something to salvage, what in fact it turned into was a desperate battle to stave off relegation.
Yes, I think that we did give it all this game. I mean, we was very unfortunate to come out with anything, and then we have 2 games more in that week, and we lose each game by the same score, 2-1. And in all the games, we should have and could have got something out of the games, and who knows how that would have changed the season. But I think we lost a little bit of confidence here. The fact that it virtually finished our chances of playoff places, I don't think anyone was looking at the relegation, and perhaps we did get a little bit too late. But this is certainly a game where we had enough chances to score when you look back on it. As I say, the first 20 minutes we completely dominated, and we made enough chances second half to get something, but full credit to Bristol Rovers, they do defend well.
Well, we move on now to the visit of Reading, where we'd lost again another game perhaps we threw away. 3-2 it was at Elm Park back in October. A Ronnie Mauger own goal there, the difference between the 2 sides, and here once again rather guilty of gifting the points.
Well, a game that we've dominated from start to finish virtually. 2 unbelievable goals we've given against us again, and we lose the game, and certainly that doesn't help.
That doesn't help, you're absolutely right. Another home defeat then, hard on the heels of the Rovers setback, and that one perhaps harder to take because Reading, no great shakes in the division last term.
No, certainly not.
So, with just 1 win coming from those last 13 games, Ray, although there's 1 going in from Ivor, it was a consolation.
Yeah.
1 win from 30. What exactly went wrong at this point in the season?
Well, I think we started to lose a little bit of confidence. As I say, we 3 matches on the spin there where we've got nothing out of. And we should have got something. And then we started getting a little bit, a few of the lads dropped their heads. We've got to say, we was trying to pick them up and he's further injuries, chopping and changing the side. But having said that, this was probably the worst performance of the season as far as I'm concerned. Abysmal. The running on paper didn't look that bad, but we really have made hard work of it. Drawing 0-0 here against the bottom club,
who were virtually dead and buried at this point already.
That's right. But it was very disappointing.
Another one coming back off the woodwork.
Back off the post again. And we did. I think this was the sequence where we went 5 games hitting the post. I know we.
Well, amongst all the frustration, and of course the spectators from the terracing don't always know what goes on behind the scenes. A word about Jeff Eckhart. The season before last he'd been the Player of the Year, and he really did have a very up and down season.
Yes, but I think when add to that after the first game of the season against Tranmere, he went over on his ankle, which was later aggravated in the Oxford game where he went to tackle someone and he ended up twisting it again. And from that point on, which was only the second week of the season, I don't think Jeff Eckhart ever trained more than 4 or 5 complete weeks. We was virtually patching him up to playing games because we didn't have anyone else. We tried to loan. The players that we had in the squad were injured and there was just no one else.
Visit of near neighbours Brentford midweek. Great instinctive save there to deny Ratcliffe as Stannard gets it around the post. And this is one, thank heavens Ray, we won.
Yes, it was especially nice to beat Brentford. At the time, we didn't know how important it was. We still got, I think, 6 or 7 matches to go after this match, in which we win 1-0. And really all we needed was a win. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, and it made for a very nerve-wracking end of season.
Yep, those 3 points then against Brentford, courtesy of a Steve Milton header at the near post, getting in ahead of Terry Evans. Brentford themselves at the time weakened by injuries and suspensions. Steve with a chance to really wrap it up there in the second half.
That's where Steve has got to put trust in his left foot, because we know he can hit a ball with his left foot. Well, if the chances are there, he's got to take them with his left foot. He tried to twist round on his right on that last occasion, and he's got to accept that he's got to try. He won't get as much space as he's used to now, and if he gets half a chance, he's got to take it.
Gary Barnett, by this time, who had also forced his way back into the first team.
Yeah, I thought Gary did very well at the end of the season. He came back in, he had problems early on with his toe, but he came back and I thought he finished the season very well.
So some desperate defending at the death. Jim Stannard once again perfectly positioned to parry the Neil Smiley effort and protect Fulham's lead.
Yeah, I think it's Jim at his best. I mean, Jim is a great shot stopper. He's very agile for such a big man.
So it's always nice to beat Brentford, and as we were to realise later in the season what a crucial 3 points that was. Birmingham City, the next team to visit the Cottage.
Yes, and another team that came, played 5 at the back, and although we had the majority of the possession, we never looked like scoring, to be honest, and it was always on the cards that we were going to get beat, I'm afraid. We failed to, we was getting a little bit frustrated. We failed to take any chances that we did create, and it almost seemed inevitable that we was going to lose this game.
Mark Newson looking for his first goal for the club.
I predict that Mark will get at least 6 or 7 goals this year, wherever he's going to play. Either if he plays sweeper or at fullback. I know that Mark is definitely capable of scoring goals.
Steve Milton with a header on the end of Clive Walker's miss-hit shot come cross. And I think the fans on the terraces are really warm to Steve, perhaps for his wholeheartedness, or realising that he still lacks a bit of real quality.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember that he did come from a very low position in Whiteleaf or in the first division of the Vauxhall Europa League. So I mean, it's a very big jump that he's made, and he's done very well. He showed that he has got touches of quality. He does give you 90 minutes. He does sometimes frustrate the rest of the lads in that he doesn't join in enough. But if they'll put up with him if he gets his goal scoring right.
So we've lost 3 of 4 home games by the same score of 2-1, and hoping surely we can pick up 3 easy points against another one of the strugglers, Blackpool. But again, it wasn't to be.
Well, again, 3 points here and we can all rest easy, but they just wouldn't come at another game where we had the majority of the play again. It wasn't a very good game, I admit, but we've had all the play, but the ball won't go in. And by this time, frustration has definitely crept in. Suddenly, the realisation that we've got a struggle on our hands is on everyone's mind, and that's what happens. Even Ivor misses them chances.
Yes, and Gordon knows he should have done better with that effort. And we're firing more blanks again, I'm afraid, as with the Walsall game, finishing 0-0. The London Marathon, that has a special significance for you, Ray.
Yes, I actually ventured into this one. You just missed me there. I actually just...
We'll get you on the slow-mo.
I was very pleased that it was so wet. If it had been hot and dry, I don't think I would have finished it. But it was I enjoyed the experience, although I've done it once and I will never do it again.
You couldn't persuade any of the board to join you?
No, they were all still in bed at this time. But it was a good day, and I did enjoy it, and I'm pleased I finished it. And we eventually raised £1,000, and thanks for everyone that did contribute. There was a lot of Fulham supporters that did contribute, and just thanks very much.
So there you see marvellous scenes from the 1990 London Marathon, and also a great vote of thanks to everybody who supported Ray's magnificent effort in completing the full 26-mile, 385-yard course. And if I hadn't had a more pressing engagement that day, Ray, I'd have been out there with you. Now, Cardiff, and what a crucial point this proved to be. And although we should have had all three, see how close we came, in fact, to chucking yet another game away. This was the game of the season.
This is a crunch game. We knew if we win, then we're okay. We knew if we did lose, there would be trouble. That is virtually their first attack. We've had some good situations prior to this, and then they go upfield, get a free kick, which was I know the lads were disputing it afterwards, but it was a little bit of silly play by Glenn trying to climb over someone, and it's made it difficult for us. But thankfully we've bounced back. That's where Steve's good. He's showing his pace there, and he's rifled that in very well. Extremely good goal out from Steve.
Well, a super goal, and by this time in the season, with Fulham's inability just to secure that last win, which would have really guaranteed third division safety, Cardiff down amongst the dead men, it was between them and us for the last relegation position.
That's right, it virtually was. I mean, it was so tense in the dressing room before the game, it was unbelievable, and I was just praying that we didn't freeze. And when we go 2-1 down, you know, it looked ominous, but we got ourselves back in. Martin Pike doing very well there. Ivor adding the finishing touch. Steve Milton, sorry.
Steve's second goal of the game, and Martin doing very well because the cross nearly ran away from him, didn't it?
That's right. And then we quickly go 3-2 in front. And again, Martin Pike has a big say in this goal. Here he comes, he joins in. First touch ball, nice 1-2. I think that's excellent play there. I'd love to see us do more of that. And there's the old man popping up, sliding it in.
Well, whenever he gets a sight of the Welsh valleys, you know,
right.
he always pops one in. He's always got about 500 people there, I think, waiting for comps, isn't he, outside the gate. And it's Fulham then just a few minutes away from really condemning Cardiff to 4th Division football and securing their own safety. But could we hang on to the 3-2 lead?
No, we couldn't, unfortunately. Mark Newson has slipped there, and just as the ball was played into the lad's feet, Mark's gone in and got too tight and slipped. And we really didn't look in trouble, and then suddenly 3-3, and unbelievably, we could have lost the game. That is an unbelievable save. That doesn't look as good as it actually was, because from the other side of the pitch, from where we were sitting, Jim was going the wrong way, and he's had to turn back and arch his back, and that was a real superb save. And didn't we need it?
Well, didn't we just? Because to underline the point, that really meant that Fulham could go into their final game of the season here at home to Leyton Orient, knowing that if Cardiff lost at Bury, then the result here would be immaterial. And thank goodness, despite leading at half-time, I'm afraid that's how it turned out, because once again, we could not hang on to that lead and recorded yet another 2-1 home defeat.
That's right. The amount of times we've lost 2-1 this year has been incredible. That was an early chance that we missed. But as you say, we did get the perfect start really in such a pressure match when Martin Pike does come up. These are previous chances, they're all half chances that we didn't put away.
Once again, almost where we came in really on this Goals of the Season video, a very, very hot afternoon. Tremendous atmosphere inside the ground, and a great compliment to the Fulham fans who'd had so little to cheer, turning out in numbers for this one, getting right behind the team from the start. In fact, you were out on the pitch there, Ray. What was it like?
It was baking, and the fact that it was such an important game, you know, it seemed doubly hot. Everyone was gasping for breath out there. But as I say, that was a good goal from Martin Pike, again with his right foot. But we seemed to sit back a little bit. On the pitch, I remember trying to scream everyone up, because almost as if we were trying to protect the lead, and desperately trying to get them up, but we seemed to sink as if we were protecting it, which wasn't the way we planned it. And again, the inevitable happened.
Yes, leading 1-0 at half-time. Orient coming back with this, the first of 2 second-half goals, as Fulham failed to clear a corner.
He hits it very well, the lad, for a rucker player. Jim said he couldn't see the ball afterwards, but he's finished it very well.
So 1-1, and all the fans in the ground, of course, on tenterhooks with transistors pressed to the ear, desperate for news of Cardiff's progress up at Bury, as Leyton Orient get one off the line, and the club's fate really still hanging in the balance as the minutes tick by to the end of what's been a most frustrating season.
Yeah, it's probably the worst season I've ever known as manager or player. From the first week of the season, nothing has gone right. We've not played well. The injuries have been unbelievable, and it's just been a nightmare really from first to last. We just hope that we get some of the luck that I think that we deserve this year, next season. And if it does even itself up, which hopefully it will, then I think we've got an excellent chance to.
Well, there you are, a strike out of the blue on 82 minutes from Danny Carter, and it sends the Orient fans into ecstasy and all Fulham fans on the ground into deep despondency. Thank goodness the news coming through from Gig Lane was of Cardiff's defeat. It was they who dropped into Division 4 and Fulham who stayed up by the narrowest of margins. There, the ball just not going in as we move towards injury time. What did the players come off the field saying, Ray?
Well, we slipped up a little bit because I was playing, the results, the Bury game was being shouted onto the pitch all the time. And when they went 2-0 up, that was immediately transferred onto the pitch to me. And I think most of the players heard it. So we knew whether they relaxed or not. They said they didn't, but they did. Actually, at this time, everyone knew that we had escaped. But as you see, everyone is so disappointed. It's just a miserable end.
Well, there it was, the 1989-1990 season, and a pretty turbulent and at times distressing season it was for Fulham fans, both on and off the pitch. But Ray, that's all history now, thank goodness, it's behind us. And I'm sure all Fulham fans will want to know where perhaps the next generation of Parkers and Gales are coming from. What about the future?
Well, as you say, it's been a very bad year on and off the pitch. But one of the consequences of the deal that was done between Cabra and Fulham has meant that there has been some money. Now, we've had a lot of trouble over the last few years. There's been no money whatsoever, and any money that we have had has been ploughed into the first team, which was the first consideration. When Jimmy Hill and the consortium took over, the team was in a bad state. There's no doubt about that. When part of the deal, obviously, we lost to Coney and Parker straight away, which it's a major blow losing two good players like that. So any money that we did have in the future was ploughed into the first team. Unfortunately, the thing that goes after that is the youth team. No money was ploughed into it, and we've been struggling. It's a very competitive market anyway, in as much that we're surrounded by first division clubs. Brentford have proved that it can be done. The one piece of good news is that, as I say, the money that we've got from Cabra, some of it will be spent on a youth team policy, which we haven't had. We really have been scratching around and just making the best as much as we can do, which consequently means that we've not got the talent coming through that we previously had. As I say, it's a very competitive market, but we feel sure that if with more money ploughed into it, more scouts, more people looking at matches for us, then we can attract more youngsters into the game. But obviously it's going to be a long-term thing, but at least there is some definite policy in trying to get young boys into the club.
It might be a bit early yet in the summer to forecast anything, but which teams do you fear for next season?
Well, I think that you've got to look at the sides that just missed out. Rotherham are quite strong. I think Birmingham are doing quite well. If I had to pick a team at the moment, it would be Birmingham. The promoted clubs, I've seen Exeter, but I think it will be a finding out year for them. I think they're strong. and of the other promoted clubs, I really can't see in them making too much of an impression. I think that the trouble will come from the teams that have been relegated. I think Bournemouth will do well. I think they only got relegated because they had such a bad crop of injuries at the end of the year that they just couldn't field a side. I know they've got a very small squad there, and it did affect them quite badly. So I think that Bournemouth will be hard to beat, and I also think Stoke will have a reasonable year. I don't think we should look on it too gloomily. I think we have got a reasonable chance. I think we need to strengthen the forward positions a little bit more because there are a few question marks there. But I think that it's such a fine line between success and failure in the third division that with one or two lads up front regularly putting goals in, then I think we've got an excellent chance.
What about Bury? They've been spending big, and a word as well about our West London neighbours, Brentford.
Yes, Brentford, hopefully. I mean, I like Brentford. I like the look of their side, and I did tip them last year to do well, and I think most people connected with the game thought they'd do well. It just goes to prove that just spending money doesn't always work, and I feel that they've needed this season to bed their new signings in, and it's taken a long time. But I think that they will have a reasonable chance next year. As you say, Bury are spending very heavily during the summer. They might find it hard to settle down at first, but if they start reasonably well, then you've got to respect them to do well as well. It's going to be another very competitive year, and again there won't be much in it, and it's all a question of who can maintain reasonable consistency throughout.
Now, after England's performance in Italy, are we likely to see Fulham developing a sweeper system?
I think it's fairly likely that we might. I think personally that we got an ideal sweeper in Mark Newsom, and when I did buy Mark, it was always in the back of the mind that once we get other positions covered, that we could play with a sweeper system. You know, when I first took over the club, it was the system that I adopted straight away, using Parker as a sweeper. I've always liked the system, and it's nice to see that the English players can adapt, as England showed in the World Cup. And when you're dealing with lesser players, you've got to do more work on the training field. With the senior players, like the England players, because of their ability, they can fall into different systems more quickly, more easily. With players of third division calibre, it takes a little bit more time, but there's a reasonable chance.
Well, if we steer clear of injuries, have we got a squad good enough to finish up the right end of the table next time out rather than down the bottom end?
I think with the right signings up front, which I think is where we need it, I think the rest of the squad is fairly decent, and with the good news that Sean Gore and people like Skinner, Thomas have come through pre-season well, hopefully they'll come through it well if they've trained all through the off-season, then the squad is a lot more stronger, and yes, I think there's a reasonable chance that we'll do well.
Once again, Ray, on behalf of all Fulham fans and from the New Sonic team, thanks for taking time out to talk us through the goals of the season. We wish you and everybody associated with the club a far happier time in the coming campaign. Thank you for buying this Goals of the Season video. Don't forget, cameras will be at every home game in the coming season, and you can support the club not only by buying these videos, of which a sum of money goes to the club directly. You can also get involved with Cottage Chance, in the Supporters Club shops, and in all sorts of ways. And don't forget, of course, coming up next season, Ivor Davis and his testimonial. And look out for match reports on LBC, London's favourite radio station for sport. From me, Phil Myson, and the whole New Sonic team, see you soon.